Hi there. I want to talk to you about how to deal with a fascist. Um, in my book, Speaking of Race, I talked about how to talk to people that you don't agree with, how to have difficult conversations with people after they've said something racist, etc. And I had a warning in there from an ethicist. I asked him, is it okay to talk to a Nazi? Is it okay to shun a Nazi? And his answer was this. He said, we have problems in judging what other people do politically because we come up with our own reasons why we think they act the way they do, and we can be spectacularly poor at working out why they behave the way they do. We come up with our reason rather than being open to their reasons. With Nazis, it's pretty clear where they stood. They were straightforward. Hitler was very, very explicit with what he thought about Jews, and so in those cases, you don't need to do a lot of work to understand why they're doing what they're doing. And he says, I think we shouldn't listen to Nazis, but you have to be damn sure that they're a Nazi. So this is what you do when you are sure that they believe in horrible things. And that's sort of what's happening right now. The first thing I will say is do not ever spend any time arguing or debating with someone who is making fascistic horrible statements. That they're trying to waste your time. No matter what you say, they will find a reason why you're wrong, and it's a really, really useless endeavor. So do not waste your time. The other thing is that when we are, especially when we're speaking to one another, this isn't about rationality. Human beings are not by nature rational. We are big-brained social animals, and so you're not going to win a rational argument. The only way you win win a conversation with someone is through your social skills. We're not logical, rational thinkers. Like I said, we think in terms of our society, our sociology, our psychology, our emotions, and this is one of the things you'll see here. This message where she said, she was asked what's common knowledge but shocks outsiders in your field. And she says, humans are not rational thinkers by nature. Human brains are very bad at determining cause and effect, absent structured processes like science. And high IQ is not at all reflective of how well somebody reins in their own cognitive bias. In fact, it goes the other way. The human brain is not a rational, highly rational computation device. It's a bunch of algorithms designed by evolution, cobbled together with some weak results checking software. And the other thing I will say is that I have found it to be true that men are more likely than women to say, keep emotion out of it, or you're getting hysterical, or you're getting emotional, when the science tells us that men are much more emotional than women are. They are more emotional about getting criticized. They're more emotional when they with feeling that their ideas aren't heard. They're more emotional about having an argument. They're more emotional about being stressed or frustrated. The research that we had going back decades that seemed to imply that women were more emotional was conducted by almost entirely male scientists who didn't include a lot of emotions like anger and frustration in their set. So what we're dealing with right now are people, even people who say empathy is bad, who say that empathy is toxic. There's a book called Toxic Empathy, and that it's wrong to feel empathy and then compassion for other people. So here's what you do when you're talking to somebody like that. You don't debate them. You don't let them waste your time. You're going to socially sanction them. Social sanctioning can be used for good or ill. It can be either negative or positive, meaning you can negatively sanction someone, you can punish them for misbehaving, or you can positively sanction them. You can reward them for following the norms. Human beings are primed to follow the rules. People say they don't like rules. That's not true. Our species freaking loves rules. We love making rules about when to eat, where to live, when to have sex, where to have sex, when it's okay to kill someone. We have always made rules and we love them, and we are primed to follow those rules. That's why social sanctioning works. And so when you are actually talking to someone who is spouting fascistic ideas, sanction them. Even if they are in your family, you do not invite them to family events, and you tell them why. You tell others why that person is not invited. You need to make sure, without insulting them, because then they can reject your entire opinion. If you're calling them a moron and an idiot and, a Nazi, they will reject everything that you say after that. They don't have to take your opinion seriously. But if you simply sanction them and say, look, the thing you have just said, the policy that you support does this. This is how it does harm to people, and therefore, you're not welcome here. That's not welcome in my house. Social sanctioning is incredibly powerful. You have to create norms by pointing it out when someone else breaks them. If we create this norm that it's not okay to be hateful to other people, that it's not okay to wish for harm to come to others, then you have to back up that norm by kind of shunning the people who break it. That's how human beings work. And it's an existential threat for those who break it, because being isolated is a threat of death in our species. I will give you one warning, though, which is that there are lots of people out there who believe hateful, awful things, and believe violence is okay in on these issues, and they're everywhere. So when you completely shun someone and isolate them, that can go two ways. They can change their behavior to try to fit into the community where they used to belong, or they can go find the community where they will belong without changing their behavior. What I say all the time is you can't tell someone to leave their tribe without also making sure they know they're welcome in your tribe. You can't say leave behind those horrible, awful people, but also you're terrible and awful and you're not welcome here. This is sort of part of the sociology of a Homo sapiens. Belonging is the most important thing to us, to our survival after food, shelter, and water. And belonging is why so the need to belong is why social sanctioning works so well. It's also why you have to be careful about where that person ends up belonging. You got to give them a place to belong. So when you're using social sanctioning, make sure you are criticizing their behavior. You say this, you do this, you support this, therefore you're not welcome. And you can turn it into a conversation about how they can change, but also make sure that when they don't do those things, you do make them welcome. Okay. How to deal with a fascist in your family. Have a good one. And as always, please be kind. You don't have to like someone in order to be kind to them.